In what can only be described as one of the most bizarre political spectacles of recent times, Donald Trump returned to Butler, Pennsylvania, in a speech that was meant to honor a firefighter who tragically lost his life in an assassination attempt. Instead, the former president delivered a deeply unhinged and chaotic performance that left many speechless. Trump used the stage to boast about his physical health, invite Elon Musk on stage for a bizarre dance, and spread misinformation about Hurricane Helen, all while encouraging his supporters with dangerous rhetoric about election fraud. This event, which was supposed to be a solemn moment to honor a fallen hero, quickly spiraled into a circus-like atmosphere as Trump made outlandish claims, engaged in cringe-worthy interactions, and fueled conspiracy theories. It was a performance that underscored how deeply out of touch Trump has become and how dangerous his rhetoric remains in the current political climate. In this video, we will dive into the key moments of Trump's Butler rally, from his boastful claims about being the healthiest president to his mocking of hurricane victims. We'll also look at the disturbing undertones of violence that he has increasingly embraced and the cult-like following that cheered him on at every turn. Weightlifting Daddy and the absurd. Trump's speech in Butler began on an odd note when he bizarrely launched into a monologue about weightlifting contests, comparing himself to athletes and bragging about his physical fitness. "They put an eighth of a pound on one side of the barbell," Trump said, veering off topic, before returning to claim that his doctor had declared him the healthiest president in U.S. history. He was the doctor for Obama, Bush, and Trump. "That's pretty good, right? He said I'm the healthiest of the three, no contest." This self-aggrandizing declaration might have been amusing in another context, but it felt wildly out of place at an event meant to honor a fallen firefighter. And yet, this was just the beginning of a deeply strange and often unsettling event. The crowd, seemingly oblivious to the somber occasion, erupted into chants of "Daddy's home," while donning shirts emblazoned with the same phrase, a sign of the cult-like devotion that has come to define Trump's most fervent supporters. Elon Musk's cringe-worthy cameo. In what can only be described as one of the most cringe-worthy moments in recent political history, Trump invited Elon Musk on stage, who proceeded to engage in a bizarre, hyper-animated dance. Musk, one of the most high-profile tech billionaires in the world, had aligned himself with Trump's rhetoric in recent months, and his presence at the rally only solidified his loyalty to the former president. As Musk jumped around on stage, looking more like a lunatic than a visionary CEO, the crowd cheered wildly, further underscoring the bizarre nature of the event. This wasn't a solemn memorial for a fallen hero. It was a spectacle, complete with a cringe-worthy cameo from one of the world's wealthiest men. Misinformation and lies about Hurricane Helen. While the rally's circus-like atmosphere was troubling enough, Trump's decision to spread misinformation about Hurricane Helen was downright dangerous. He claimed that people in the affected areas had received no help and were being offered a measly $750 for their destroyed homes. "There's no people there. They don't have anyone," he said, falsely painting the picture of a government that had abandoned its citizens. In reality, governors from the affected states, including North Carolina, had publicly stated that they had received immediate and sufficient aid from the federal government. But Trump was never one to let facts get in the way of his narrative. As he continued to spread lies about the government's response to Hurricane Helen, he cast himself as a hero, the only one who could save the people from this disaster. His rhetoric was not just misleading, it was deeply harmful. In an age where misinformation can spread like wildfire, Trump's baseless claims about hurricane relief have the potential to sow distrust and confusion in the very communities that need help the most. Stop the Steal 2.0. Trump's dangerous election rhetoric. Trump's speech took an even darker turn when he pivoted to his favorite topic, election fraud. He doubled down on his baseless claims about a stolen election urging his supporters to stop the steal and promising that the upcoming elections would be too big to rig. This rhetoric is nothing new, but it remains deeply troubling. Trump's words were a clear call to arms for his supporters, many of whom still believe the 2020 election was stolen despite all evidence to the contrary. It's the same rhetoric that incited the violent January 6th insurrection, and here was again repackaged for a new audience. As Trump ramped up his inflammatory rhetoric, one of his supporters, Mickey Wilson, a January 6th insurrectionist, was seen at the rally proudly displaying her allegiance to the former president. This is the dangerous reality of Trump's continued influence. His baseless claims are not just words. They are calls to action for those willing to engage in violence to defend him. Katrina comparisons and Trump's grave dancing. If Trump's misinformation about Hurricane Helen wasn't bad enough, he decided to go even further, comparing the disaster to Hurricane Katrina, widely considered one of the worst natural disasters in U.S. history. "This is a Katrina for them," he said, once again attempting to paint the Biden administration as inept and uncaring. But Trump's comments weren't just about politics. They were deeply disrespectful to the victims of Hurricane Helen. While people were struggling to rebuild their lives, Trump was using their tragedy as a political tool, grave dancing on their misfortune to score points with his base. The press took notice, with outlets like the Charlotte Observer publishing editorials calling Trump out for his cruel and unnecessary rhetoric. "Shame on Donald Trump for worsening Helen's tragedy," read one headline. And yet, despite this backlash, Trump doubled down on his comments, showing once again that he has little regard for the truth or the people he claims to care about. Trump's assault on education and random country shout-outs. One of the more perplexing moments of Trump's speech came when he announced his plan to abolish the Department of Education and return control of schools to the states. "We're going to move our education back to the states, places like Indiana, Iowa, Idaho," Trump said. Then, in typical Trump fashion, he threw in some random countries for good measure. "A Denmark, a Norway, a Sweden, maybe even China," he exclaimed, leaving many in the crowd scratching their heads. This random string of countries was a fitting metaphor for Trump's entire speech. Disjointed, confusing, and ultimately devoid of any real substance. The dark Maga moment. Elon Musk wasn't the only one to make an appearance at Trump's rally. Lara Trump, Eric Trump, and other members of the Trump family were also in attendance, each delivering their own bizarre and inflammatory remarks. Lara Trump, in particular, made headlines when she promised to go after illegal citizens who voted in U.S. elections, threatening them with prosecution and deportation. Meanwhile, Eric Trump accused the Democratic Party of trying to kill his father, echoing the dangerous rhetoric that has become a staple of Trump rallies. And then there was the dark Maga moment, a phrase that has gained traction among Trump's more extreme supporters. Elon Musk proudly declared, "I'm not just MAGA, I'm dark MAGA," further solidifying his allegiance to Trump's increasingly radical movement. Trump claims assassination attempts. As if the speech hadn't already veered into enough conspiratorial territory, Trump claimed that over the past 8 years, his political opponents had not only slandered, impeached, and indicted him, but they had also tried to kill him. "Who knows? Maybe they've even tried to kill me," Trump said, a claim that was met with gasps and cheers from the audience. This kind of rhetoric is not just dangerous, it's reckless. Trump is once again painting himself as a martyr, a victim of political persecution, all while inciting his supporters with baseless claims of violence. It's the same playbook he used in the lead-up to January 6th, and it's a strategy that continues to pose a serious threat to democracy. The Trump family's threatening rhetoric. Before Trump even took the stage, his family was already setting the tone with their threatening rhetoric. Lara Trump's speech was filled with thinly veiled threats against illegal citizens who vote in U.S. elections, promising to track them down and deport them. Eric Trump, meanwhile, accused the Democratic Party of attempting to assassinate his father, a claim that was met with wild applause from the crowd. This kind of rhetoric is not just inflammatory, it's dangerous. It's the kind of language that incites violence and encourages Trump supporters to take matters into their own hands. Donald Trump's rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, was a disturbing reminder of just how far the former president has strayed from the norms of political discourse. What was meant to be a solemn event honoring a fallen firefighter quickly devolved into a circus of misinformation, baseless claims, and dangerous rhetoric. From his bizarre boast about being the healthiest president to his reckless lies about Hurricane Helen, Trump's speech was a masterclass in disinformation. And yet, his supporters cheered him on, seemingly oblivious to the damage his words were doing. As we look ahead to the next election cycle, it's clear that Trump's influence remains as strong as ever. His base is as devoted as ever, and his rhetoric is as dangerous as ever. The question now is, how long will we continue to let this dangerous and unhinged behavior go unchecked? Will we allow Trump's dangerous lies and conspiracy theories to shape the future of American politics, or will we finally say enough is enough?